Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're just going to watch me ink a panel. And this panel here is, again, for that comic project that I'm working on, the Standard. This is actually issue 4. And the whole reason I wanted to do this one is, this one's a little fun. As you can see, we got the tight line art. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to work on the curve here. What the scene is this character here, the corpse, is basically broken and entered into this lady's house, and she's startled to see him. And the big dramatic thing is, like, he's been in the house and he turns the lamp on, and like he's essentially the only light source in the panel. So the reason why I wanted to do that with you guys, record this one, is there's a lot of rendering with this character and some pretty cool light and shade that we get to play with. So that's the backdrop, and I guess we'll just go over describing some of the thought process going behind it. So here, the name of the character here is called the Corpse. And he's, like I said, pushing a lamp back. So essentially, it is the only light source in the picture. Right away here, what I'm doing is some cast shadow from his little hood there on his costume. And eventually what I will do is I black out his entire face. That's what's really cool about working digital. I told you guys this a bunch of times. I'll continue to say it because it is awesome, is being able to literally draw in white. Any line you can make in black, you can make in white. So in these heavy shadow or dramatic lighting scenes, I just feel myself, and again, this is coming from a guy who's never inked traditionally with brushes or anything. I've inked with microns and pens, mostly. And not really much with whiteout, not with like the detail that you could get with like a pen. So, this is a little jaded, or it's coming from one angle. And I want to make sure you guys know that. But being able to draw in white, to me, for me, as well, as provided tons of awesome experiments that I was able to do and get some really cool effects and things. Like literally being able to render in white is awesome. And for those of you that don't know what I mean when I say rendering, let's just look right here. So I'm doing the pecs, and I got that shadow line for the bottom of his pec and a little triangle. Now I'm going to start adding these little lines, like right there. Some people call that feathering. Some people call it rendering, okay? So when I say rendering, that's what I'm talking about with rendering. So in shadow, I'm able to actually do that rendering as well, which is really cool. I'm right there adding more cast shadow. If you don't know what cast shadow is, it's the shadow that's being cast from a form, from a light source. So I can speak to it realistically with you guys. That lamp that the corpse is pushing is the only light source. So that light is blasting against his hood, and because of that, the hood will cast a shadow if it's not being hit by the light of that lamp. So you should be drawing cast shadows, okay? So like right under there, all of that underneath there is a cast shadow. There's core shadows, stuff like that. But we'll get into all that stuff in some later videos, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Right now, we're just, kind of having some fun. These kinds of shots here are sort of pretty dramatic. I do like to add a lot of that sharp right there where you can see in his forearm. It's like sharp triangles. A lot of my shading is just sharp cuts or triangles. I just like that effect. It's very like, I don't want to say visceral, but it's very, I don't know, it just makes a character seem a little different. I have tried rendering with soft, and usually you'd save like the soft curves and stuff for women. It just seems a little bit more inviting, I want to say. But when you got sharp lines, it just looks like the character is a little dangerous, and that's something that I definitely want to put, especially superheroes, like they could pop at any moment and stuff like that. Ideally, what I would like to do is work in all the shadows and then do what I'm doing right there, like rendering the bicep out. But this character is so fun to do that I kind of jump the gun and I just render after I'll throw in some shadows. It's like, I just want to take a break and just start rendering them out. So, if you're feeling the energy, if you're feeling the juice, don't stop yourself. But I do like to have, I don't want to say rules, but limits to how I like to work. Usually I like to establish where all my light is, so I'll do all my heavy blacks, all my shadows. Then I'll go over and I'll start rendering, feathering, whatever you want to call it. That way I can see if I'm over-rendering something. But with this guy, especially in this comic here, the Standard, I don't really have a lot of characters that have heavy, like they're not dirty characters. Usually they're mostly in the villain realm. And or even if it's just say the Standard, he went into like a sewer and he's all muddied up. There's some rendering that gets to happen there. But in the case of this character here, he's a dirty character. And we don't know yet if he's a hero or a villain. And, it's cool to be able to play on that. The reader is not quite sure what's going on. Maybe this person is a villain and a hero. That anti-hero. Maybe he kills to get what he wants. Does that make him a bad guy? Depends what you're asking, right? So those are questions that I want the readers to ask, the viewers to ask. And a good way to get that across is to really start muddying up your characters. It adds a little bit of doubt to them. Now, right there, what I did is I had some solid black. There you go. I just flooded his face there. And I'm adding a little triangle shape across his chest. Again, that's a cast shadow from his mask or his hood. But a couple steps before that, what I had done is I grabbed the lasso tool. And inside the heavy black of his cowl there, I just made some triangle shapes again and just filled it with white and rendered them out. That way, as you can see, it adds more layers. It looks like there's a lot of folds happening. So being able to, draw in black by filling it with white, I'm telling you guys, it's something that I would definitely experiment with, especially if you haven't really gotten into the shading and the shadowing. Shadowing? Sounds good. I like it. Shadowing. We'll go with that. Well, one of the videos I wanted to tackle with you guys is just showing you how I went about learning how to do shadow outside of somebody literally showing me, but some experiments, I guess, and some trial and error that I did. I'll do a video all on that, but I don't want to make you guys wait. One thing that you can definitely do, and I know this is going to sound really weird, but go grab a coloring book, go to the dollar store, grab a coloring book, and if you got a photocopier or a scanner, and you've got some paper that you can burn, basically photocopy, I don't know, let's just say it's a cartoon bunny or something. Photocopy a couple copies of that and put a little sun. You know how you would draw when you were a little kid? Put a little sun somewhere, from the bottom, from the top, the left, to the right. And just get a big fat Sharpie marker. And just start, if you don't know what Hellboy is, take a look at, just do right now. Pause the video, go look at Google, type in Hellboy, and you can see those chunky, simple shadow shapes. Do that. Do these cartoons and put those chunky shapes in there. And the beauty of it is it's just a coloring book. You didn't have to draw anything. You're just making light sources. And what it does is it gets you, for me, what it did for me is it sort of made me break away from that fear of, oh God, if I add shadow here, what if I destroy the drawing? What if I destroy that 10 hours I spent drawing the tight pencils for this, or the tight inks? You haven't really gotten into the shadow. If you can do a lot of the grunt work right up off the bat on simple shapes, especially like cartoons, because they're very, cylinder, square, and circle, you'll learn some fundamentals. Then, start applying it to anatomy and stuff like that. Essentially, what you're trying to do is break that fear that you probably have for yourself for doing shadowing and rendering. And on the other hand, maybe you don't like shadow. You don't like the look of this. Maybe this looks, this to you, not your style. I get that. So maybe you might want to do shadowing and rendering, but what that stuff will teach you, even if you do it a little bit, and you don't even add it to your work, you just do it, it's going to make you think about volume and mass and shape a little differently. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll show you guys a video. I'll actually grab the camcorder. I'll print out some stuff from a coloring book, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about when I do that stuff, just so you guys can try it out. I think it's a fun little thing, but if you got some time, I want to try that out. So, getting back to this, I've got the corpse here pretty much drawn. Right now, I'm just doing a cast shadow of him on the couch, just so that it implants him on that, or that little love seat there. There we go again, drawing in white just to break up the shadow a little bit so it doesn't just feel too flat. And his whole cape's actually going to be in pretty heavy blacks. Initially, I didn't want them to be solid black. I wanted it to roll into the lighting a little bit. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to grab the lasso tool and really start giving some life to this cape here. For this character, who I like to think about, or what characters I like to think about when drawing these guys, for this guy, definitely Spawn, with a mix of Batman, I guess, like a gritty Batman. Just characters that are, a little visceral. More Spawn, I would say, especially with the cape and the dirty, grungy kind of stuff. But here you go. Okay, so I'm just drawing these weird shapes right there and filling it in with black. And this is drawn with the lasso tool. And you're going to see here, I'm going to fill it black, and it's left some areas open, so I just go over there and fill it in with some black again. And just draw some extra shapes. And I think I'm going to grab the white, right here, and just kind of like break it up, just to make it look like it's torn fabric a little bit. And here I'm just adding some more, and I'm going to render this a little bit. I'm not sure when I get to it. Just dirtying up the cape, breaking up those clean shapes a little bit. Here I thought, instead of breaking up, that's fine. I'm going to add some cool rendering to it, maybe. Just give it some motion. The idea with this kind of character, and characters like Spawn, Batman, characters that have capes, Superman to a degree, but Superman's clean. Dirtying up Superman looks a little weird. But I'll just use Spawn for example. If you guys just Google Spawn, even if you don't like it, The cape is meant to look like it's got life. It's moving. So even if he's standing still, the cape literally looks like it's alive. It's its own creature. It doesn't even matter what the wind's doing. So that's one of the ideologies I'm trying to have with this character, where it always looks like it's unnatural for clothing to have a life of its own, right? So when you look at somebody like this who's always in shadows, you never see his face. You assume he's a human. Maybe he's disfigured. I don't know. But a lot of these qualities are given to anti-heroes or villains, right? Where their clothing is attacking you, kind of like an octopus or something like that. So I really want to try to sell that with the guy. Here, I've got the lady's hand up in the extreme foreground. You saw me just add a quick white outline around it. Sometimes I don't like adding white to break up the shadow. It just looks a little weird. But in this case, I just wanted to make sure that her hand didn't get lost in it. It was a small little thing. Here, I'm just adding some lighting to the lamp. One thing I do like to do with shading is, you can see right in the lamp there where I drew those little circles on the inside. And what I'm doing there is I'm kind of doing the opposite effect. I'm rendering it out, and then what I'm doing is I'm leaving a little close to the edge of the shadow. I'm just breaking it up a little bit so that the light kind of spills over, so it doesn't just go into like a flat black. It kind of makes it, give it a little bit more interest. In here we're just working on her collar. Again, working on the cast shadows that they're putting on. So you've got the collar of the wrist, and then the collar of her shirt underneath there. So there's two shapes going on. I'm just going to fill those in with black. And some of you may be questioning this, because I know I get questions, technical questions in Manga Studio, and I'm not the best guy to answer all your Q&A on that. But when you fill in shapes, sometimes you'll get, like, it won't fill it in nice. It'll be like white little areas. And the reason I'm getting that is because usually, instead of erasing, I'll just redraw over top of it with white. So when you fill it with black, it's still considering that white as opposed to transparent. So when you fill a transparent area, it's going to go right up to where the white fill is. It's hard to see when you're working in black and white there. Just taking a look here. So we're almost done the video. Thank you guys for watching. Right at the end here, for about 5 seconds, I'm going to show you a close-up of it so you guys can see the rendering and all that cool stuff. But I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Keep reading comics. Keep making comics. And we'll talk to you next time.